everyone. There's no journal today. I'm just chatting. I'm going to be rambling for a little bit. I mean, I have a topic, and like when I hit record, I'm going to talk about this. I have this theme in mind. But before I get there, just let me pre-ramble at you for a little bit. And the tone is maybe a little bit negative. Normally when I do these, I'm really positive, and I try to be encouraging and empathetic. I end every single one of them with my hopes and my well wishes for you and your day and life. They're like everything you want them to be. But then when I do have criticism to assign to someone or some place or thing, like a proper noun, I try to balance it. I'm cautious in how I criticize, and I try to balance it with some compliments, because everyone ever, I mean, you and me, everyone you've ever known or met or seen, everyone I've ever known or met or seen, we can praise them. I mean, if you hold them up to the light, they glow in some domains, right? But then over here, we can also criticize them. No one is without fault. Like if we were to have the Truman Show come true for everyone who's ever lived, I mean, mostly our lives would just be like you coming out of the womb, whatever, it's like cramped up in there, and like here's the camera, and then you're a toddler, and then you're an adolescent, you're an adult, here's the camera. Our lives would just be mostly boring. The bulk of everyone's life is just squandered, aptitude, like sort of wasted, potential and resources. And fine, whatever. Once in a while we interrupt it. Sometimes we interrupt that boredom, that boring programming, with a little success, some little triumph, a witty rejoinder or whatever. And those are the things we share. Those are the stories we tell ourselves and others that are us. Like, that's me all the time. And like, no, it's obviously not true. Most of the time we interrupt our boredom with like some just sort of embarrassing or awkward scene, some sentence that didn't come out right. Folly is what defines our life, mostly folly. And this is true. Like, so I came home from, what made me think of this, I came home from work like a couple days ago, and I was hungry, and I opened up the fridge. I was just looking for like something to eat. There's nothing that is made, so I have to make something. Like, oh, there's pickles, and I ate a pickle so aggressively while thinking, like, if a camera were on me, this is what I'd be known for, is how aggressively I ate this pickle. And I started thinking about the Truman Show, and then I ate another pickle really aggressively. And then realized, if the Truman Show happened to history's greats, our greatest heroes ever, they too, by today's sort of internet lens, the way we perceive people today, the sort of the memeing of people today, we would redefine them too. Like Abraham Lincoln would be redefined by foibles and pickles. I mean, so Christopher Hitchens took on Mother Teresa, right? I mean, everyone's favorite like Albanian saint, and in the missionary position, and Hell's Angel, and it was clever, right? It was clever. Even she is not without shadow. However, we have to admit that Mother Teresa also did incredibly brave, wonderful things, sort of self-sacrificingly brave and wonderful things for humanity, in particular, the poor. It's just a ton of one. And so we have to acknowledge that, like, if we were to make a list of like the Hall of Fame let's make it for the U.S. For the U.S., a Hall of Fame of like history's heroes. And if we were to do worldwide, there's just too many. And let's not make it like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where there's like hundreds of people and half of them have nothing to do with rocking or rolling or anything. But the narrowest one I can think of a Hall of Fame, there's one criterion for inclusion, and is a federal holiday in your honor? Does it exist? Is it named after you? Is a holiday named after you? So I can think of like three-ish, like 2.5 people. And so let's go in chronological. And obviously there's like in one of the Dakotas, South Dakota, I think, the Mount Rushmore, right? Okay, we have a few people on deck that they're like other candidates on the ballot, whatever. But the first person historically, chronologically, to have that holiday would be Columbus, which just happened, but also it's Indigenous Peoples Day, or it's Indigenous Peoples Day. That's up to you. Nobody gets to tell you how to view your day. And what I'm saying is, I'm not going to say anything that he is a divisive figure. I've read the books. I went to elementary school. I know this stuff. There's also more than 2 sides to this. There's 20 sides to the story, and nobody knows any of it. It seems like many of those sides have some seedy, unflattering qualities, and so I understand he's like the Pete Rose of this particular Hall of Fame. He has supporters and he has non-supporters, and it's okay wherever you fall. It's okay. Notice I'm not telling you where I fall. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where what I say. And like, also, if I were to say, just from an objective, like non-emotional, non-ethical perspective, he actually never went to the United States, let alone the continental, Americas. So I guess Juan Ponce de Leon would be the like explorer he landed in Florida. When I was in elementary school, again, I'm not a history professor. Or like ethics, sociology, psychology, nothing like that. I teach physiology and epidemiology, cells and statistics. That's my thing. And so just take everything I'm saying with a grain of something bigger than and stronger than salt here. But when I was in elementary school, Juan Ponce de Leon they said he was like searching for the fountain of youth. I don't actually think that's true, but that's what I was taught in elementary school. And he went to Florida, and I just, later in life, I found that to be funny. Sort of like in the Seinfeld days, I realized there was like humor in that, because like Florida, that's where a lot of New Yorkers go to like die of old age. That's like their retirement. And so I just always found it funny. He does have the greatest signature, though. That's art, not by an artist. It's like art, it's like macaroni art, but oh man, it's good. So look up Juan Ponce de Leon's signature. Whenever anybody says like, oh, let's put the signature, people think of John Hancock. That's like an ordinary looking signature that's just barely bigger than the other ones on the page. Like, why? To put your Juan Ponce de Leon on this page is what people should say. And so if you want to replace Columbus with somebody else, if you want, like, you can replace him like way before. And like, let's also, in addition, celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. I find the warmth in that, and kindness and whatever, and there's empathy there. But if we have, what's his name, Leif Erikson, isn't he the Viking who came here, like before all the, ocean blue stuff? I think Leif Erikson, and nobody, I don't see anybody that's like adamantly protesting the Vikings as sort of explorers. And the Vikings aren't divisive for some reason. I mean, everyone loves the TV shows, and everyone and so as long as when you land somewhere new, you have a hatchet and you start hacking up strangers, you're fine. Yeah, you're in the clear. And so sometimes I think it's just scorn that we're applying to people for the sake of the scorn, as opposed to let's be level-headed in all of these things. But the level-headed position that I'm trying to put forward is, there was a federal appointment of Christopher Columbus. Let's count him in this list. I know there's horrible verbs, that are associated with his name also. And there's dignity and empathy in celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, whether it's instead of or in addition to or whatever. Okay, fine. An explorer. There's an explorer. Put whichever explorer you want in our list of, like heroes. Number 2 in the chronological list, I would say, is George Washington, because President's Day, that's his birthday. You say, well, it's not technically called George Washington. Okay, fine, whatever, but it's his birthday is President's Day. And so we have a sailor, and then we have sort of the founder-ish, founding father of the U.S. And to his credit, yes, any person with political power and financial wealth and whatever in the 18th century, and this is like late 1700s, he has deeds that are repulsive by today's standards, not just by today's standards, but by sort of contemporary understanding of ethics, that we've grown as sort of culture and our understanding of humanity and what it means to be humane or whatever. Yes. But he also, in the 18th century, scoffed at these ideas of kingly royal lines, and it's the 21st century, and what the hell's England still doing with like a royal line? It's so creepy. And George Washington knew better in the 18th century, and like, how come there hasn't been notice taken in the present day royal line? Why are we centuries behind the curve on this? So George Washington, I think he's worth, and you get to think something else, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I think or you think or whatever. We get to have her. So I think he deserves his appointment in the federal appointment of that Hall of Fame. And then the last one, the most recent one, I don't think anybody would disagree. Nobody of sound heart and mind and soul, I don't think, would disagree, which is Martin Luther King deserves his appointment. And because nobody did more, at least in recent time. You can make an argument about Lincoln or something, but in recent times, nobody has done more to heal the nation, right, than Martin Luther King. And I'm not saying the nation is healed. I didn't say that, right? I'm just saying we're healing. You know, I teach physiology, and so like the macrophages have sort of made their exodus, and the fibroblasts are now in there, and some growth factors called them in, and they're depositing some collagen and fiber, and that we're healing. We're healing. And so I think that much is clear. And no one has taken bigger strides to facilitate that healing, I think, than Martin Luther King. And so he deserves his federal, my opinion, and I think everyone's opinion is he deserves his appointment in that federal Hall of Fame. Like, here's how impressive this is, how revered his life is. He's the only person in the 21st, 20th, or 19th century to get a holiday. He's the last appointment, and there's still like nobody even in the 19th century who achieved that. So he won. That's a victory in life. But if you take like a Christopher Hitchens scalpel at his life, even there, you're going to find the shadows here. You know, you get the coroner in the closet, and you're going to find a few bones, and because that's true with everybody. I mean, that's just everybody alive, but very few people also accomplished great things in addition to the other stuff. And I think the history books and sort of historical perspective of how we used to handle our heroes was just practically worship, right? It was just veneration with a willing, deliberate blindness to any deficits or faults, downsides, deeds that we find disagree, any of that stuff, we're blind to it. Today, what we've done is sort of the opposite of worship. We're just like spitting on them, with all the saliva we can produce. I mean, it's this relentless campaign of spite, and it feels disingenuous, whether it feels like it's just miserable, insecure people cutting down their heroes, as quickly as they can, like timber to every sort of person standing tall in the annals of history. And maybe we've just run out of woods. I don't know. Maybe we've just decided to clear cut every standing thing. But it just seems like everything is under assault now, under battery, I guess. Now, all the time. I mean, like, we constantly are at least online this is true, we are attacking everything we can think of, always, all the time. And like, if you watch two dogs pass each other on the sidewalk, like they're on leashes, the owners are coming in opposite directions, and the dogs see each other. Oh, there's another dog, and the owner's straining against the leash while the dogs are barking and trying to get the teeth on the other ones, now just vicious, strangling themselves to try to kill the other. That's what dogs do often, depending on the breed and whatever. But we do that too now. Like, whenever any two strangers pass each other on the internet, they just try to get at each other's throat. And like, what? It's like, that's not just that way for like public figures. Once upon a time, it was like Saturday Night Live, public figure, scorn and stuff. But now it's just everybody. It's the little guy and the little gal. And so, speaking from the perspective of one, little guy, no, if you're watching this right now, you're one of few. I don't have that many, and yet I get the hatchets. And so let me just tell you a story of something recently. Within 24 hours, this one single day period, I had two different people, different comments posted on videos, and the first one was said that I am the enemy, I'm not quoting because I can't remember the exact words, I am the enemy of progressives the whole world over. I am just their biggest opponent because I said something positive about J.K. Rowling's work. Okay, all right, whatever. I delete it or whatever. It's just like, it's just a troll post. If it's troll barking, I'm just going to delete it. The other one, again, within 24 hours. So think about the context of that one, the implication of that one. Here's the other one. And this is going to come off like these lips and tongue and whatever rarely make noises like this. I'm quoting to the best of my memory. This is an exact quotation. Maybe there's a word that's what, but it was, this guy is a woke, racist, anti-white piece of shit like every other professor. That was sentence one. Okay, I don't know the other sentences. I think I skimmed the second sentence and then it just went on with this like hateful gibberish. And so I stopped reading. I showed Marie a couple sentences. We giggled and I hit delete, because think about the implication here without try to reconcile those two criticisms. Like, like neither person knows anything about me. They saw 2 minutes of a video, maybe less than that, and they made this judgment about me and posted these opposite sort of political. I never said a political like perspective on here in any video. If anyone interprets it that way, that's your own bias, extracting, gleaning some little like tone that wasn't in the actual video. But think about the implication of this guy is like every other professor. So let's start by swapping the careers. Let's say it's like a used car salesman or something. Okay, that feels like satire a little bit, it's like a sleazy, and then the words that people would use for a used car salesman, is still unkind and is still untrue, and car salesmen everywhere are like, what the hell? I'm not that person. But then let's change it to like police officers. This is a common thing. Like all police officers are, and you end the sentence with some disparaging remark. All politicians are. That's probably the most common one. All politicians are. And okay, public figures here with the politicians, I think there's a little bit of sort of social and artistic license with politicians, maybe. You know what you're signing up for when you go into that. But let's make it a little bit more like gross, right? All like find religion and say, all people who practice this religion, all followers of this faith or whatever are. And then again, end the sentence somewhere disdainful. Let's make it even worse than that. Like pick a ethnicity, a culture, right? Pick something like that and say all of them are. We start to see how hideous this is. I mean, look inward, and those are just like festering boils on the human soul. And until people start lancing those boils, you just can't engage with them. But those are not productive conversations. I mean, there's like an exorcism that needs to happen for those people before they can contribute to society, contribute to conversation, have civil engagements. I think we all need to do this with empathy. But there's a different, that's not what I wanted to talk about, deleting troll posts. That's not what I wanted to talk about at the beginning. What I wanted to say, I find it more interesting, is the dislike button. The motivations or what's going through people's head when they click the dislike button. It's subtler, but it's more interesting to me. But I've been talking for so long, I think I'm done. And so I'll pick that topic up maybe next time. Maybe that'll be my topic of next time in the future. One of these future ones, that's what I'm going to talk about. And again, maybe the tone will be a little bit negative, but if it's a negative tone and I'm talking about a negative thing, right? We all know, again, from elementary school, like where all my history lessons came from, the product of two negatives, right? That's a positive. So my ending hopes for you, though, are that your day is like nobody right around you has like boils on their soul, or they had boils and they lanced them and were able to develop some empathy and start to understand that other people are people too, and if we they're just as important to them as we are to us, and if we can start to try to understand empathy, if we can exercise, not exorcise, but enact our empathy, the world is a better place. Conversation is more productive. Learning, we do better. Everything is better. And I hope your community is filled with that betterness. Okay, I'll see you next time.